Another freaking week, another episode here of the Ride Along with my co-host, Mr. Matt Brading, out in Houston with Texas Edge and Spec. How's it going, buddy?
So what's up? It's going well. It's going very well. Been very busy lately.
Dude, this is good. Spring market, it's rolling along. You've been busy. That's
I got a new
awesome.
guy. Started a new guy started with me today. New
Oh,
inspector.
dang, dude.
Yeah.
Hey, how did he do?
He did okay. He's just kind of walking around with me, But in upcoming weeks, and he'll slowly get more and more, things that he's doing and get his hands on more stuff, more hands-on type training. Right now, he's just kind of shadowing, but we'll increase his workload coming up in the upcoming weeks.
His workload increases as his liability decreases. That's
Yeah,
basically how it works, right?
you got to learn.
You do. Now, so what do you do for like when you're training somebody? Is he just carrying the ladder, opening the windows, running the faucets, things like that? Like, what
I
do you have
will
him doing?
say that carrying a ladder is a huge thing, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
But so yeah, he has actually done some ladder carrying, but for the most part, right now, he's just walking. This was his first inspection. He did do a ride along with me, but we're on the ride along, but another, an actual ride along. He did a ride along with me a couple weeks ago or something like that, just to kind of see if we wanted to do this, and it worked fine. And so we said, okay, so right now he's just in the shadowing phase. There's more watching, yeah, some ladder carrying, or it might be like, hey, go reset that GFCI. But I would imagine that by the end of the week, he'll be doing some stuff to kind of help out the inspection process, and that way he's doing a little hands on and a little learning at the same time.
Dude, I love it. And we've actually got somebody riding along, figuratively speaking, with us today.
Yeah.
But he is no stranger to the home inspection industry. In fact, this guy is one of the best there is out of freaking Louisiana, Eastern Louisiana. Mr. Kristian Geiger, how you doing, bud?
Doing great, man. How are you guys doing?
Oh, wonderful, man. I'm glad you're here. We followed each other on social media for a minute, so I'm glad that we've got you on the show because inspecting in LA as you are is got to be fascinating, man. I mean, the termites that you guys deal with, the just the different terrain and part of the Gulf that you guys are on, it's very unique.
Yeah, it is. I mean, alluvial soil always leads to a little bit more foundation issues. We don't really have any bedrock that you have to deal with, I believe, in your part of your neck of the woods. But yeah, Formosans are pretty big out here. Formosan termites. So it's always something that you have to watch out for.
Yeah, definitely, man. So yeah. Matt's out of Houston. I'm out of Tampa Bay, Florida area. We don't have rock. We just have sand
Yeah.
over here. Yeah, it's
I
a whole lot
gotcha.
of sand. Yeah,
Where you
we don't
used to
need
be
base.
from, you probably dealt with bedrock a lot more.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's actually something I want to get into. So before we talk, usually we'll start the show like I'll ask Matt like what's something interesting that he's seen in the field this week. But since this is mainly because we've had some really interesting characters on the show recently. If you haven't caught up, go back, watch the episode with Jesse Hernandez, watch the episode with Brian Wall. We've talked everything from AI to insurance adjustment, all kinds of cool stuff, things that intersect with our industry without always just being strictly about our industry. But today it's inspection heavy, baby.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna talk a little bit about what we've seen this week. But before we do that, of course, we got to plug inspection fuel because that's coming up. Going to be September 8th through the 10th in Nolans over in Christian's neck of the woods. You going to be there, bud?
Oh, absolutely. Tickets are already purchased. I will be there. Look forward
Right
to
on.
seeing you guys.
Dude, and this is actually going to be cool because Matt, we've all got something in common on here, and I feel like maybe we need to lobby Dave Kogan at Porch to maybe be the featured entertainment of inspection fuel because we all play music.
We all do have a musical background. We do,
We do.
indeed. I used to play guitar for many years, and a little bit of singing. Brad, you got a little guitar, and I believe you slap it a bass, as they
I
say.
bring that low end, buddy.
And Christian, you
Oh yeah. So I sang for many years. We toured the country, played South by Southwest. So
nice.
it's
Dude.
many moons ago, but your guitarist you play every day, your singer you sing every day. So I mean, you still keep your chops sharpened, as it were.
I'm sure it's like riding a bike. Okay, so we've got the home inspection band. There's another inspector we were just talking about plays drums. So I mean, we got a 4-piece band ready to rock, man. And look, the Chili Peppers pull it off with what, 3?
Four.
So
4.
4. See, there you go. We got this, guys.
That's right.
So yeah. Hey, sound off in the comments if you want to hear Matt sing. You know, and if he's really bad, then just stand there and just be like, it's not supposed to do that.
Just hand the mic to Kristian because he's a singer.
Yeah, that's
So
it.
That is
Yeah,
true.
he'll take over. All right. So, drink of the day, guys. What are we sipping on Cinco de Mayo? Christian, what you got?
Well, Cinco de Mayo, I have got tequila.
Oh, dude, that's the proper thing to do. But what
just
is in
tequila.
there? Is that just a whole tumbler of freaking tequila? Like,
Yes, it's
Wait,
about. Well, no. I do. Look, we were trying to get through the show, right? No,
yeah.
I do have some Sprite in here to kind of
you-
tame it down a little bit. I got to stay focused with you guys.
I love it. Matt, what are you sipping on, bud?
tequila. Just
Also
kidding.
tequila.
It is though. It is. I got a ranch water. I don't have the stuff for a margarita, so I got a little lime flavored liquid death, some salt on the rim, and some tequila. So
That lime
Cinco de
flavored
Mayo.
liquid death is amazing.
It is. It is. I'm a liquid death fan.
Dude, I will have to check it out, man. I'm cheating, guys. Like I'm just sipping on a nooner, and I honestly don't care, just because yesterday was the final day of Country Thunder here in the Tampa Bay area, and I did good to wake up this morning. Uh, like I I tied one on just a little bit, and so I'm keeping it as light as possible for this episode while still honoring the segment,
Right.
trying to anyway. But no, now that we got our something to sip on here, I want to go around the horn and talk about what we have seen in the field, because it's been an interesting week. For those of you that don't follow Matt, definitely go follow him. Christian, where can they follow you at, first of all?
You can follow me anywhere: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere.
I'll
Yep,
follow you
love it.
anywhere, Kristian.
um,
Wherever you will go. Throwing it back to the 2000s. Yeah. So, but no, go follow him, because I mean, like, we talk about one of the best things about the home inspection industry. It's like, I feel like we're all down to like call our buddies with like, dude, you wouldn't believe this thing that I saw, or I just saw the wildest thing today, or you wouldn't believe this agent, or we tell stories, and that often translates onto social media for the content creators. So go follow those guys so you can pay attention to the stories throughout the week. But Matt, you have seen some pretty cool stuff, and you had a little bit of a war wound.
I did. Yeah. So today I was coming out of a closet. This was an occupied house. They had like a under stair storage inside the closet, and I was trying to get back there and make sure there was nothing going on back over there, but I had to like make my way out of it through like their clothing and everything. And I was wearing my meta glasses here, so this is what I looked like. I had these on, and as I came out, there was a door that was open, and I hit the door, and it smashed my ear between the door and my meta glasses, and it cut my ear open. Very very small little work related injury. I think I'm going to live, guys. But it did bleed though. It
Yeah,
did
pray for
bleed.
you.
I was a
Yeah,
bleeder, and so yeah, I had to kind of walk around with a paper towel in my ear for a while. But I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna live.
well, there's plenty of other guys that have had big pillowy, coverings on their ears after they've been wounded. But look, you could probably run for president next. Is all I'm saying. Okay.
The guy's an impressionist. I didn't even know.
that was actually pretty
Some
good.
say
I'm
it
not
was
gonna
just
lie.
the
That was,
baddest wound that they've ever seen on an inspection job site.
I can't even touch that. I can't even touch that. But yeah, I got a small injury on my ear.
What'd you see this week, Christian? What's the coolest thing that you've run into in the field?
man. This week,
He
I
says
would
that like
have to
he has
say,
seen a lot. Like it's like he has
yeah.
to exhale first.
Well, this week and last week has been pretty heavy with focusing more on the mold inspections. And the interesting thing this week was actually kind of sad. I haven't run into this before, doing a trailer inspection, and I found a baby. Not sure if it was a baby rat or a baby squirrel in the drain, and the mother was nowhere to be found. So um, had to make a pretty hard decision. But you know, it's either let it starve to death or kind of quickly, you know, do what you got to do. So I've not run into that before. Thankfully, not too many. I've never ran into a snake under a crawl space. I've never ran into wild animals or anything like that. So, but that was pretty interesting and pretty
I
gross.
saw this video. You put that out on a video. I saw this video of you and this baby creature. Now, you very cleverly made a video that was actually very successful for you. Am I mistaken with that?
No, yeah, it's done pretty well.
I mean, you did that on purpose, right?
Well,
Like
look, in hindsight, like, even my wife was like, "Look, you cut it off facing the toilet for a reason. That's
yeah.
why everybody thinks I flushed the thing." But I did not. I'll set the record straight right here. I did not flush it. I'm not
Oh,
that cruel.
Whoa.
that mouse came
Um,
back and got him.
Yeah, I guess so.
but
Jeez, what
it's
happened?
Hold on.
it's done fairly well. The video's done fairly well. I think it's just a hair over 2 million between Facebook and Instagram.
Well, Christian, let's give it a minute for your camera to catch up there. I think it's something kind of froze on you.
You
While
guys
that's
are both frozen on my end.
Oh, and he's gone.
and he's gone. We've never had this happen on air before. Now I feel like this is actual radio.
I know.
It's like that caller, that longtime caller, first time listener that shows up. Wait, I think that's the other way
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, okay. Well, I got a little something too, man. While we're waiting for him to come back online here.
Shoot, man.
So yeah, no. So okay, when it's awesome to me moving between different locations. All right, up in Virginia, again, 8 or 9 years up there. I can't remember exactly how long it was, but every place is just so different. And I thought that inspecting in Florida would be much more simple, just because hey, we got him back. There he is. Um, Now, Christian, I was just saying, it's neat what you find between different places of the country. I really am kind of still learning some things about the Florida market where I thought it would be much more simple down here, just because you don't have basements, everything is slab above grade. Not always the case. And I don't know if you guys do wind mitigation inspections up on your side of Hurricane Alley, but that's something that I got called for this past week. A insurance agent I'm friends with needed one done, and I was looking at pictures, and she goes, "Yeah, I think they got solar panels. I hate solar panels." And go back, we talk about solar in a previous episode, but I get up on the roof. It was not solar at all. It was actually a hydronic solar pool heating system, where basically it's just very thin piping with connected to a manifold at the top and the bottom. It almost looked like a solar panel from a distance, but basically the pool pump will send it through the filter and then up to this manifold, where it will trickle down very slowly and get heated by the sun in this thin black tubing, and then run back down to the pool. And it wasn't a huge pool, so I mean, I looked at the cost. I mean, it's maybe a few $1,000s to install, but for a small to moderately sized pool, it made so much sense, because it's like, why do you want to pay for another heat pump? Why do you want to pay for a gas furnace to heat your pool when you can just do it this way, one and done? And so long as you don't have a hurricane that comes along and messes things up, then you've got a fairly consistent source of heated water to keep it, pretty livable. You can keep that pool open through the winter down here.
Yeah, that's
So
pretty cool. Certainly uncommon. I haven't ever seen anything like that. But although I've seen some like solar water heater situations,
yeah, yeah, I've seen those
like
too.
very, very rarely, but I've come across something like that before. But
This is a
not the
much
pool.
smaller version of that,
Yeah.
is what it is. Much more simplified version of it. But yeah, hey, always learning, man. We're always learning. But there's another way that we could take this thing too, guys, which is that since we're always learning, we're always adding to the toolkit, right? Um, and I want to talk with you guys, especially Christian. You know, you do a lot of mold inspections as well in your neck of the woods, correct? Is that kind of one of your
Yeah,
specialties? Um,
it is. Yeah.
yeah, tell me a little bit about that and how you added that to your scope of work, because that's what I really want to get
So,
into is how we define our scope of work as inspectors.
a mold inspection, at least in our area, is not actually considered part of our standard of practice. So we will notate things that have the appearance of suspected organic growth, right? We can't call it mold unless it's tested. But a mold inspection would be done separately, separate contract, separate scope, separate terms, and that way it doesn't fall under our standards of practice. But yeah, I started that a couple years ago, almost the same time that I started home inspections. It's been I can't really call it an ancillary service. That is my primary source of income, and so it's been a great learning experience. Especially the more you do it, the more you learn, the more you understand what to look for, and the more you can help your clients. Because some of them are spending all kinds of money, scratching their head, trying to figure out why they're having an issue, and we're able to help them. And so it's very satisfying.
So out there where you're at, it does require a completely separate license to inspect for mold.
Actually, no. In Louisiana, mold inspectors are not licensed. It has a very low bar for the state of Louisiana for mold inspecting. Now, obviously, remediation, is a different story. You have to be licensed and insured. Now, I am very heavily certified in the state of Louisiana for mold, and so I went through LSU through programs that they have there where they certify you, and you're taught directly by a microbiologist and a mycologist. And then I've gathered many other certifications to make sure that I'm giving my clients a good product. And in a few weeks, I'll be able to challenge the test for the board certified indoor environmentalist, and so that will be a very large piece of uh, peace of mind for my clients that they're getting somebody who knows what they're doing, knows what to look for, and can help them complete a project from start to finish. As far as giving direction to the remediation company, giving direction on what to look for, what chemicals to use, what methods to use to be able to successfully get them back to a normal fungal ecology.
Now that's awesome, man. And again, that's your normal. Gosh, that's where you're making most of your money. So that's fantastic. But when did you kind of realize that was going to be the biggest differentiator in your business?
First 6 months of even being in business. So I'd say the first 6 months, the first 6 months of consistent work. So I got licensed in as a home inspector in September or October of 2022, I believe it is. So I mean, it's not licensed in our state, but so you definitely have to make sure that you're getting somebody who is very qualified for what they do. So my professor, the person who taught me, is one of the top expert witnesses in not just Louisiana, but really across the nation for mold inspecting, but also things to look for, philosophies. There's not all mold inspectors are the same.
Right.
Yeah, some of them it's just call it like it is. Some of them have unethical practices. And so you hear that. You hear that. I hear that every week. That's the biggest concern that my clients have is the horror stories they hear about mold remediation companies and mold testers. So you definitely have to make sure that you bring and exude confidence and trustability to your clients.
These horror stories you talk about, is that like people that maybe had a mold inspection or these they had a mold inspector out, but they recommended a whole bunch of remediation that maybe wasn't necessary because of some feedback they give the remediation company, or is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Yes. So the biggest conflict you'll have out here, which is something that you're not supposed to do, and of course they legally try to find ways around it, is let's say the inspector is has his own mold inspection company, and
Yeah.
his wife just so happens to run a remediation company,
Oh, what?
and
As
so
luck would have it.
Imagine that.
that is convenient, right?
What a coinky
Yeah,
dink.
as luck would have it. And so they trade work back and forth, and there's a clear conflict of interest there.
Definitely.
As far as the inspector side, you do have some inspection companies, ones that are used quite a bit, who will take a single air sample and walk around an entire house with it and collect air out of the entire house and pass that off as a mold inspection,
Oh,
right? So traditionally, the way it's done, depending on the openness, if there's an open floor plan or if it's an older style home where you've got lots of hallways and twists and turns. If it's an older home, you generally want to stay somewhere between the 5 to 700 square feet per air sample range. And if it's a large open floor plan, you could very reasonably get away with 800 to 1,000 square feet per sample. But the idea is you want to break the house down into segments, right? So if one segment has extensive mold in it in the air, then you're able to narrow your focus down to that one spot. And so what some of these other companies will do is they will walk through with a single sample, they'll find something, and now you have no idea where it came from in the house. And so that incentivizes them to be able to come back and charge the client again to do a more focused inspection, which they should have done in the first place. So yeah, these are some of the things that that the clients hear about, and some of the times it's some things that are actually done to them, right? So it's not just rumor or speculation. Like these are things that I've personally in the last 2 weeks heard about from a client who reached out to me for a different mold inspection.
man, that's nuts. So this is where, it does benefit to have licensure, right? Like for the state of Florida, uh, mold inspections have to be done. Like Ryan Wall, who we had on the show previously, he's now licensed for mold as well, I believe. And Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong in that, but I'm pretty sure you said on your site that you are. But anyway, that's kind of the different process down here. I don't hate that, right? Because again, there are things there that protect the consumer, right? And it weeds out some of these people who are going to mess the industry up for perfectly exceptional inspectors like yourself, who are going to go through and actually look out for the good of the homeowner.
Well, and also, like, if you're licensed, then they're probably going to have some sort of code of ethics that they have to follow, which would eliminate, the people that you were talking about, or at least to some degree it would. But, I want to talk about in getting prepared for the show. We were talking to Kristian about, some upcoming work you have, and you have a rather large mold inspection this week, I believe.
Yes, I do. The details are still being finalized, but it's somewhere around 75,000 square feet. So it's
It's a rather small inspection. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's a little tiny.
I mean, I don't
Yeah,
even know where to
it's
start asking questions about this, to be honest with you. Like, I don't know how you even go about it. I don't know how you go about pricing it. How do you break it down? Like, give me the cliff notes on this massive stuff.
yeah. Um, it depends on what function you're going to serve, right? So I can do the inspections and the assessment, but those two things aren't necessarily done um, with the same price point, right? So if I'm going to come in and just do a basic inspection, typically with these types of buildings, it's narrow hallways. It's 8.5, 9 foot ceilings. So they're drop tiles, a lot of these types of inspections. So it does introduce a different dynamic, because you want to sample indoor conditioned air, right? You don't want to sample outdoor unconditioned air. And so with these older buildings, they're very leaky, right? So you have to pay attention to that and just make notes. But the basics of it, something like this, if you're going to do the assessment, the first thing you have to do is figure out where they're getting the problem from. You do your initial air sampling and swab sampling or tape lifts or what have you, just to get a baseline. But the purpose of the mold inspection is not just to get the fungal ecology of that space or of that room, but also to find out where the moisture is coming from, right? So if you are going to do the assessment and create the scope of work for the remediation company, then you'll have to have a firm grasp on the condition of the building envelope. You'll have to have a firm grasp on where the moisture problems are and have a way to eliminate those. If you don't eliminate those, you there's no point in starting any kind of remedial work whatsoever. That has to be addressed first before you can start that process. Um, and so it is a long and drawn out process. It is time consuming, and it does take foresight, but it's something that can pretty easily be done. I mean, the difference between a large project and a small project is simply time, right? The principles and the aspects to get from point A to point B are still the same.
So Kristian, when you're doing a property this size, first of all, it brings up a couple of questions into my mind. Number one, if there's no licensing board in Louisiana for mold, who establishes the standard of practice for a mold inspection? Is that InterNACHI, or how do you come about that?
So the EPA has guidelines, right? The IICRC, the Cleaning Residential Code. There are a lot of different regulatory boards that are national, CESB, that speak on best practices. But then you have opposing philosophies, right? So this is where it gets kind of murky. So you have um, the IICRC, and then you have other philosophies such as normie, and the very basic differences on the cleanup, but your standard mold inspection remediation process is going to be testing, find out what your ecology is, fix the problem, and then you have to obviously in fixing that problem you have to remove that those mold spores. You have to get those spore counts down. Um, it's interesting. The second edition of bioaerosols remediation and control is an interesting point it makes, where it says that the spore's viability, so whether it's alive or dead, can propagate or not, does not in any way affect its toxicity. And so it could be completely dead and still have many of the same health effects to the person. So um, with regards to a large building, that's very difficult to get a good control of the building envelope. I mean, in this case, it's two buildings, it's multiple floors, it's just tens of thousands of square feet, right? It's an older building, right? You still have a lot of asbestos in there. You still have a lot of lead-based products, and so it's definitely a process.
Sure, yeah. Now, when it comes to determining your standards, which did you go off of when you were setting it up? CRC or?
Yeah, I mean, you always want to go with the most stringent when health concerns are involved. In my opinion, obviously, now I'm not an authority on that, but you always want to realize why you're there. You're not there just to get paid. You're not there to solve a problem. You're there or to remediate rather. You're there because likely someone's feeling sick, right? You're there because likely someone is not feeling well, and so if you look at two different methodologies and one of them is more stringent and would lead to maybe a better health outcome, and one of them is less stringent, you would always, in my opinion, you would want to lean towards the more stringent of the two.
You're talking about people being healthy or people being sick, and that reminds me of your line of work prior to inspecting. You had something kind of interesting going on before you got into the inspection field, did you not?
Yeah, so many years ago, many moons ago, I was an EMT with Acadian Ambulance, and so I've seen, unfortunately, a lot of carnage, a lot of things that, and some of which relate directly to the things I now expect. You know, it didn't happen often, but I did happen upon a few deck failures, right? Broken bones and cervical spine damage and issues, and some people ending up with paralysis, others with paresis, which is like um, a loss of full strength either on one or both sides of your body, hemispherically, either left or right. So it's I've seen people that have been shocked. I never came across anybody that got electrocuted, right? So there is a difference. Um, But it's many of the things that we deal with, and many of the things that maybe you get pushback on your reports, where people tell you, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Well, I've been on the other end of that, out of the inspection field, and it is a big deal.
Yeah, it's
So
never a big deal until it happens to you.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
what was the title for when you or for the condition where you lose strength on both sides of your body?
So it's something called paresis.
Paralysis.
So
Okay.
yeah, paresis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the cliff notes on it is basically, you have some movement on that side, but you are weakened to a noticeable degree, right?
So you're dealing with some very serious health issues there, which makes sense for why you want to go with a beefed up standard of practice for sure. Now, tool wise, I mean, do you find that it's advantageous to continue to add to what you have to offer to clients in terms of exceeding the basic standard for a mold inspection? And at what point do you kind of cap that, where it's like, at the same time, you don't necessarily need all of these excessive things in order to do the basic job that they're tasking me with, which is evaluating the condition of this environment.
No, I mean everybody's different, but personally, I feel like your first tools that you should use are your eyes, right? We should use the visual. It is a visual inspection, right? It doesn't do anybody that good to go dig through a 40 or 50-year-old home too much. Like no house is perfect, no house is going to have everything functioning correctly, but we are there as home inspectors to observe function and safety, right? So function and safety is what we focus on. Now you can go overboard, right? So I think I've talked to Matt about this before and other inspectors, where let's say you're using a thermal camera, right? A thermal camera uh, looks at the something that's either hot or cold. So it displays it in many different colors, right? But typically something that's cold is blue and something that's hot is more orange or red. Now, evaporative cooling from something like a leak is going to draw that heat away, so it's going to show up as blue. However, it's not always as cut and dry. So there are times where I've had a wall that's completely saturated and it does not show up on thermal. And so it's reached the same temperature as the room now, right? So it blends in with the rest of the room. And so there are some dangers with relying solely on your tools.
You
You do
definitely
have,
have to know what you're working with and know your tools for sure. And I mean, I've made videos on this tons of times where I say, the first tools we need to walk in with are our eyes and our brain. You have to look and you have to think, right? And you have to think about that same stuff whenever you're using the tools. You just have to use your eyes and your brain when you're using the tool as well. I mean, without the tool, you have to do that for sure. That's your first the first thing that you should be using. But even when you're using your tool, the tools and the specialized tools that we have, you still have to think about things, look at things, with the knowledge of, and the experience that we have to know what you're looking at. Because, like you said, you look at something and it just because it's one temperature doesn't mean just because it's blue doesn't mean that it's wet. That just means that it's cold. And so you gotta be able to know where these problems might exist and think about it, and think about what you're seeing and verify that kind of stuff. Anyway,
yeah.
picking up what
What
you're
I've
laying
always
down.
said was that the tools should be the seasoning and not the meal, right? So the
Definitely.
tools should be used to add emphasis to your inspection, but they should not be solely relied on. Look, I love Tony Chachere's and hot sauce like the rest of us, but I'm not going to take shots of Tony's or take shots of hot sauce. They add flavor to the report, they add flavor to the meal, but they should not be relied on as the basis of your report.
Now I hear that, but at the same time, like everything, you gotta season, man. You gotta use some seasoning. And there's some of you
Yes,
out there that don't, and you need to come to New Orleans next year, or I'm sorry, in September, to find out
This
what
year.
seasoning's all about because they get some good cooking down there. Um, just the right amount of seasoning is
Yeah, I
what
mean,
we're
I
looking
think
for.
you have to figure out like, like I know we're talking about seasoning. Are we talking about tools? Are we talking about inspection reports? But in terms of the seasoning in the report, I mean, I do
Yes.
think that you need to figure out where you're going to draw the line in terms of how much, tools and tech you're going to bring in, because, at least in Houston or in Texas, the Texas Real Estate Commission and the standards of practice that we go by says that we do not have to use special tools. But I can't imagine doing a home inspection without my thermal camera.
Right.
I wouldn't do it.
So, Kristian, here's another thing, getting back to standards of practice. How much of the level to which you exceed basic standards for a mold inspection, how much of it is actually determined by your competition and what they're doing?
Obviously, you do want to take a look at what the tools that everybody's using, right? You do want to have what you need to service your clients. But as far as, I was just asked this today. I was asked for a different project if I knew 2 other mold inspectors that I could recommend for the bidding process. And I could only think of one. Like, I really don't know a lot of mold inspectors, ironically, in Louisiana with tons of mold. I really don't know a lot of other mold inspectors in my area. So as far as what equipment they use, I really rely heavily on the instruction from my professor, from Bill Fahini, to know whether I'm kind of going in the right direction or the wrong direction, things I should be using, methods, techniques, things like that. But as far as that relates to the home inspection, to the standards of practice, at this point, I've got a whole different contract. I've got a whole different. I'm no longer under the standards of practice whenever I'm doing my mold inspections, so I don't really have to worry about that per se. But oddly enough, for the inspection side, there's really not a tremendous amount of liability. By the time they call you, they already have a problem.
Right.
They already have a problem. So all you're there to do is give them a 10-minute snapshot. Right. So the amount of time I generally run my samples is 10 minutes.
No, definitely. We want to hear from you guys that are listening here as well. Truly, like, where do you guys draw the line as far as the inspection standards of practice, or if you're in mold, what standards of practice do you go by if your state's licensed, right? I know Florida licensed, other states not necessarily so much, but how do you choose that line to where you exceed it, or where you just do the minimum if you're one that just prefers to kind of not make it any fancier than it necessarily needs to be? We want to know where you guys cap it at, and we want to know what's in your tool bag too. That's a fun thing to talk about. So sound off in the comments. Let us know what you're carrying with you, and let us know the coolest thing that you have picked up and added to your toolkit this year, because we're all looking and learning and trying to figure out what's the next fun gadget that we need, an expensible item for next year's returns, right? For next year's ride.
Well, as much as I don't really use a whole bunch of gadgety stuff, I am awfully interested in the latest and greatest new toys and tools.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, Kristian, it's been awesome talking with you, man. I'm excited for getting the band together in New Orleans. It's gonna be fun, dude. Proverbially.
Yeah, it's I look forward to it. I love being on stage. I love being with guys like yourselves and playing some good music, and it'll be fun. Let's try to. I know one of you high-powered inspectors knows somebody who who can make this thing happen. So
do what we can do.
I'm dependent on you guys.
Either way, there's going to be good times to be had in New Orleans for Inspection Fuel for sure. So I'm looking forward to seeing you there. You too, Brad, for sure. But we'll all get together no matter what. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, definitely. Sign up, guys. The link's going to be down in the description. So until next time, we'll see you right back here, right on the run along.